I'm joined here today once again by Gillian Robertson, set to fight here soon against Maycee Barber. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great today. We're 3.5 weeks out now today, so we're getting close, and I'm super excited. Can't be happier, doing what I love.
Of course, and I want to talk about the fight, the matchup, and everything. But before we get into that, on social media recently, you posted a meme about this fight. What's sort of going on there? I mean, do you feel like your opponent is kind of overlooking you in this fight?
I definitely feel like she's overlooking me. That's what, like you said, I posted a meme about it. Every single interview I've seen of her has been talking about Paige VanZant, so I feel like she has her eyes set on that fight. But she doesn't realize the matchup that she has ahead of her.
Right, exactly. I mean, are you the one that came up with the meme? Maybe your manager came up to you. How did that come together?
Honestly, I was just bored sitting at home, and like I said, every single interview I see was her posting about Paige, so I decided to make it.
All right, for sure. I thought it was super accurate because I have the same reaction you have when I see the interviews. I'm kind of confused why that's the storyline and not, this upcoming fight.
Yeah, I really have no idea. It's like you feel like I feel like I have an impressive record with my finishes, and she's 7-0 with 6 finishes. I'm 7-3 with 6 finishes. We both are obviously finishers. We're both game opponents, but the focus seems to be on Paige, not me.
So I do want to know, when you're watching these interviews, I assume the first time you watched one of her interviews and they started talking about it, what's kind of your reaction? I mean, are you confused? Do you feel disrespected? I mean, you don't seem like an angry person. Maybe it made you angry. What was kind of that first reaction when you found that out?
I don't really care, and at the end of the day, I still get to do what I love. I still get to go in there, and I still get to put my hands on her, and I get to walk out with my hand getting ready, so it doesn't matter. She can talk about Paige all she wants, but she can get that fight if she wants after me, but she's not walking out of the cage with a win on October 18th.
So is that extra motivation because you kind of want people to realize that you are a challenger, you're not just a kind of a stepping stone to Paige, or is it just, it's another fight and we're going to do what we have to do?
I'm almost comfortable with her overlooking me because it's like, it'll make it that much easier. It's that much less assuming when you get in the cage and then you feel my pressure on top of you. You feel my technique, and you don't know how to handle it.
And let's talk about this fight a little bit in the matchup. What was kind of your reaction when the UFC came to you? It seems like a lot of people are seeing her as kind of a hype prospect. She's saying she wants the belt before, when she's still young, before John Jones got his, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts on her kind of as an opponent?
Obviously, like I said, I think she's a game opponent. She's a 7-0, 6 finishes. I definitely feel like she's a tough opponent, but it's one that I wanted. It's one that I definitely feel like is a hype train. She hasn't necessarily been tested at this level yet, and it'll be a nice welcome for her. Show her what it really is like to be at the UFC level. That there's all these girls are tough, and I'm not saying that Hannah Cyphers and JJ Aldridge aren't tough, but they're good matchups for her where I'm not.
For sure. You mentioned the matchup a little bit. I assume you favor yourself in the matchup, but how do you kind of see yourself matching up with her?
I see myself matching up with her like I do any other girl in the division. I know I'm the superior grappler. I know that's where I'm going to excel, and we're going to take the fight there, and I'm going to finish it.
And so what does a win in this fight do for your career? I mean, in this division, we know you can get to a title shot very quickly if you get these finishes, which obviously you've been doing. What does that kind of do for your career if you win this one?
Obviously, like you said, the division isn't stacked right now, so there isn't a lot of girls, and Maycee being number 12, hopefully it gets me pushed up there a little bit more. I get another ranked opponent after this, and just keep on climbing the ranks until I get to Valentina.
And let's talk about your last fight. Obviously, it was a great performance. You got the knockout. What are your thoughts on that performance now that you've sort of had some time to think back on it?
It's definitely one of my prouder performances, I would say. Me being my biggest self-critic, I feel like I hate watching any of my fights. It's just it's so cringy to me. I hate watching my own fights, but there's only 2 fights that I've ever really been proud of, and that was my one against Molly McCann, and then this last one. I feel like it's definitely something I can be proud of, where I made, obviously every fight you make mistakes, but I made minimal mistakes, and I made smart choices throughout the fights, and she wasn't able to capitalize on any mistakes I did make, so I'm definitely proud of my performance.
And was it extra satisfying getting the finish via knockout? I mean, in the past we've seen you get all these submissions, but getting the knockout, did that feel even better for you?
no matter what, getting the finish just feels great. I was looking for a submission. I attempted an armbar for a second right before I ended up getting the TKO. I was actually trying to set up to get her to turn to go to the back. I'm always looking for the submission, always submission hunting, but I wanted to display a little bit more of my ground and pound in this fight, so I was definitely happy that I was able to do that.
And recently we actually found out that she got suspended by USADA, I think for 2 years, something like that. What was kind of your reaction? I assume when you beat an opponent it doesn't quite feel the same, but what was your reaction?
I guess indifferent about it. I didn't necessarily feel like she felt stronger or anything like that. There wasn't anything that felt like where I could be like, oh yeah, she was definitely on steroids, or I don't know, whatever. It was there to help keep us safe, help keep the sport clean, and that they did their job.
And so you are currently on a 2-fight winning streak. It seems like things are going well for you. What's kind of been the key to getting this winning streak? Is it about being mentally prepared? I mean, what is it for you that's been getting you this streak?
It's definitely a lot about mental preparedness. I feel like I've never been more dedicated to the sport than I have been recently, than I have been since my last loss when I fought Maycee Barber. It was actually a year ago yesterday I fought her. It was my last loss in the UFC, and that one, there's nothing that's ever hit me harder in my life. There's nothing that's ever I didn't go into depression, but every single morning you wake up and that's the first thought on your mind is you tapping, you submitting, and it was hard to go through, and I want to make sure that no girl ever has the opportunity to make me feel like that again, and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen.
And so what do you do to kind of get through that? I mean, is it just about getting back in the cage, getting the victory, and trying to forget about it? I mean, what do you do mentally to not let that hold you back too much?
Mentally, I try not to let anything hold me back. Honestly, I walked out of the cage and I started crying instantly, and I gave myself, I was like, all right, you got 30 minutes, then you got to suck it up. You got to stop crying. You got to, just at least put a smile on your face, get past that part. And then I kept on trying to forget about it, but literally the first thought on my mind every single morning when I woke up was just me tapping, and it definitely haunted me, but just getting back to work, knowing that, like I said, I want to make sure no girl ever has the opportunity to do that to me again. So it's just a motivator more than anything. It gets you out of bed, it makes you go to the gym, and make sure that you do your shit.
And the fighters, they always mention that they learn more from a loss than a win. Obviously, you rebounded very well from this one. Do you think overall this was kind of like a beneficial loss for your career, or how do you kind of look back on it now?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it was a beneficial loss in my career. Honestly, my first 2 losses against Hannah Goldie and Cynthia Cabello, Hannah Goldie it was my first pro fight, and I didn't have as great of a training camp, and I wasn't as mentally really, I don't know, I wasn't in the same spot mentally, so I didn't take that one so hard. And then when I fought Cynthia Cabello, I got fight on 5 days notice, so I really didn't take that loss so hard either. But then when I fought Maycee, she saw me, it was that was the first fight that it really hit me, that loss, where it was all right, this girl beat me that night. She was better than me that night. She showed up to the cage, and she was just a better fighter, and I don't know, it just hit me different, and it definitely made me a better fighter. It gave me a different perspective and a different point of view, and I would never approach a fight the same way I approached her fight.
And looking at this fight with Maycee, you mentioned you watched a lot of her interviews. Is that something you normally do in your camp, kind of watch your opponent's interviews, or is that just kind of something that keeps popping up because I guess your name gets mentioned and you can sort of see it on social media and stuff?
A little bit of both. Honestly, I usually don't watch interviews. I'm freaking watching my opponent's fights every single day. I'm stalking my opponent that way. I know every single move they do and every single fight. I can tell you what's about to happen. Oh, she takes the back here. She does this here. I watch my opponent's fights every single day. But the interviews things is just kind of stuff I see that's coming up on my newsfeed, coming up on Instagram, or my manager tagged me in a post about the page looking they're talking about Maycee Barber and Paige Van Zandt talking about each other. So that's when I made the meme, because I just saw that post. But it's usually just stuff that comes up in my newsfeed with the interviews. I'm not really trying to watch my opponent's interviews. I don't care what they say about me because it doesn't matter.
That's fair. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of turn the tables here, because Maycee is talking about her next fight, talking about Paige Van Zandt. But let's say you win this one against Maycee. Do you want that fight against Paige Van Zandt if you win this one?
Oh, I would definitely be down for that fight. I heard she was on Ariel Hawani's, and they were talking about Maycee Barber, and he was talking about, Maycee Barber has a big fight coming up with Gillian Robertson, and Paige was like, well, I don't feel like Maycee should be rewarded with the fight because she's been so disrespectful to me, but I would fight Gillian Robertson, and I'm banking on that.
Yeah.
If Paige said she would be down for it, and 100%, like, I'd keep the respect between us. I'm straight with that. Like, I'm not trying to talk shit. That would be a great fight for me. It'd be a great match for me. And people talking about Paige like that she's irrelevant now, but she's been out with an injury. She's still coming off a win. You know, she's still definitely an elite fighter. So I don't feel like she's an irrelevant fighter either.
Well, that's gotta be pretty cool for you when you see a moment like that. You kind of have the media and even other fighters that kind of put that back in perspective. Like, wait a minute, Jillian's a tough opponent, obviously, and she's legit. I mean, it's gotta feel pretty good when you hear stuff like that.
Well, it feels great. I remember, like, when I was an amateur and Paige was getting signed to the UFC, and I was talking to my manager back home, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I can beat her. I know I want that fight one day. And now to actually hear her say my name, when like 4 years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, I was an amateur, and it was like, yeah, it's a possibility, but it's nowhere close. Now it's like, that could be my next fight.
Yeah. That's got to be pretty crazy. This fight against Maycee, you mentioned like you study your opponents, you know all their moves. I assume in your mind you kind of have an idea of how the fight plays out or what you can kind of expect. What kind of fight are you expecting against her? Is this something we're going to see a lot on the ground, maybe potentially a brawl even? I mean, what kind of fight are you expecting?
For Maycee, I feel like you can typically expect she's karate, or like a karate black belt or something, so she throws a lot of kicks, and then she's very good from the clinch. So she's good with her elbows and her knees, but I doubt she's going to want to stay there with me a lot because that's where, like, the second I grab you, that's when I'm happy. So I don't think she'll want to play that game with me. I feel like ideally she's going to try to play on the outside, kind of stay away from me and just pick her shots, get in and out. And for me, ideally, we're just going to grab her and take her to the ground and get it there quick.
For sure. When you face an opponent like that throws a lot of kicks, being a grappler, is that helpful because you can try to catch it and get back on the ground, or does it not really matter? I mean, is that more helpful for you?
If the kicks are to the upper body, definitely, 100%. I feel like it's so easy to catch a kick that comes up high. When there's like sometimes it's a little bit harder, but to the body, you're setting yourself up.
For sure. I have just one more for you. I mean, we're talking about this fight, what kind of fight you're expecting, but I have just one more for you, and that's how do you get the job done in this fight? How do you get your hand raised at the end of the night?
There's not a doubt in my mind that I'm always throwing my hand, and I'm always chasing the choke, I'm always chasing the remaining choke, so it's just how fast I can get there. That's the only thing that I don't know. It's a race to see how fast I can get there, but it's going to happen.
For sure. Not surprised to hear you think you're going to get the submission. It seems like that's been the key for the past couple fights.
I can hear in the future, too.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for the time, Gillian. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. We look forward to this fight. It's going to be a great one.
Thank you so much for having me.